Okay, thank you for joining us today for a tutorial walkthrough. Calling this project Monogram Key Fob in TinkerCAD. I'm David Mollick with Makerspace 307. Just going to give you guys a quick overview on how to get started with TinkerCAD and get a design that we can 3D print on the computers in our, or the 3D printers in our Makerspace. So the first thing you want to do is you need to get yourself signed up with an account on TinkerCAD. They are free, but you do have to register. But once you register, you get access to their tool and their storage. So when you first start TinkerCAD, there's going to be some tutorials that pop up that it recommends you go through. I definitely would suggest that you do those, especially if you're new to TinkerCAD. They're relatively simple and doesn't take much time to go through them. So we're going to fly through this guy pretty fast. Try to take as little time as possible. You can always pause, rewind, go back. So if you do have any questions, please let us know, and we'll see what we can do from here. So let's get started. Okay, so from our dashboard, we're going to go ahead and click Create New Design. Takes TinkerCAD a little bit to open this up. Then we're going to go ahead and click on Change Name. We're going to call this Key Fob. Apologize for the noise. I'm sure it's getting picked up. My two small children are upstairs playing in the living room. Sounds like they're moving all of my furniture around, so I'll have to go check on them in a minute. But let's go ahead and just rename our design here. We're going to go ahead and first thing we're going to do is going to drag out a box, and we are going to make this box 25 millimeters in length, 25 millimeters in width, and 6 millimeters in height. I recommend when you're working with 3D printing, you keep all of your dimensions in millimeters. I'm going to drag out this box that's also a hole and just position it in the middle there. I don't need to resize it. I'm going to come up here to align. I'm going to go ahead and center that in my first box. Drag and select again. Go up to group. And now we have ourselves a nice little frame. Now I want to have a little bar that goes across here. And I'm going to put in a monogram letter. So I'm going to go ahead and drag out another box. So this interior portion is 20 millimeters by 20 millimeters. So I'm going to leave the length. I'm going to bump that down to, we're going to do 6 millimeters. Leave the width at 20 and change the height to 4. Overall height is 6 millimeters, so we're just going to make this guy a little bit smaller. So there's a little bit of detail, a little bit of relief there. So now I'm going to drag out a cylinder, and I always like to bump up the number of sides on my cylinders, just makes them look a little bit nicer. I prefer them to be a little less chunky. Now this doesn't have the same dialogue as the boxes do, so you actually have to click on here, and then I like to click on this little corner, and that pops these up. So we're going to go ahead and change this guy. We're going to make it 12, and this one down here we're going to do 12. Height of our center bar is 4 millimeters, so we're going to make that guy 4 millimeters. I'm going to drag this to the middle as well. Just going to go ahead and select everything there, center those, and we're going to do another group. So now we have a little basic shape. So now I like to actually come down here and go to text and numbers as opposed to the text dialog. It just seems to be a little bit quicker, like a little better. So I'm going to do an M for my last name of Mollick. And I'm not going to worry about maintaining aspect ratio on this guy. Change that 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters, and I want this guy to be 5 millimeters tall, so it stands up just a little bit above that bar. Select him again. Gonna do an align. There we go. So now we have our basic frame. Select everything, group it. Now if you're not sure if everything is selected, if you draw a circle around it, if you don't get the group option, everything's been grouped together. You always want to make sure your final design, everything's been grouped, or you could have some issues with printing. So now I'm going to go back to basic shapes because I need something to run my key through. So I'm going to make a little ring. So drag out another cylinder, bump up the number of sides, click on the corner. We're going to make this guy 10 millimeters by 10 millimeters. Now there's nothing, these sizes aren't any specific reason. I just use these sizes because they print relatively fast on our machine, and it's a nice, not huge, bulky size. So for our hole, we're going to want this guy to be 6 millimeters by 6 millimeters. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it long because it doesn't matter. Going to do another align, center her up, group them together, pop it over here. Now we're going to do something different. So I don't want to center this. I just want it to be positioned horizontally. And then I'm going to manually bump it down to where it doesn't stick up super far. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and highlight, click that guy, and there we go. So now we have our basic design, and it's ready to be 3D printed. So we're going to go ahead and export our STL. The actual slicing and preparation of it's going to be covered in a different tutorial, because we do have 2 different types of machines that you have to use different slicing software to actually export it. So we're going to go ahead and just come up here to export, and the default is you want to make sure you either have the selected shape or everything in the design, depending on what you have. It can export separate objects that are all within one STL, so it's important to keep in mind exactly what you want it to do. Now, I always like to go with .stl file. It just seems to be the most portable, works with most machines and slicing software. So we do that, and there we go. So it's gone ahead and popped up in our design, and this is another reason why you want to rename your file. So this is Key Fob. If not, I'd have to remember whatever that made-up name was. So that's the main reason why I like renaming my files. So let's go ahead and we'll swap over here, and we are going to open up our file, make sure that it looks the way that we want. This is just Microsoft 3D Builder. This is the default STL viewer on my machine. So there we are. Now hopefully this has given you a good idea. I know we went over it really quick, but please, feel free to pause and rewind, and if there are any steps that are important. And we'll go ahead and see you guys in the next video.